All right, so buckle up because today's deep dive is gonna be juicy. We're taking a trip back to the 17th century, to the Ottoman Empire. And let me tell you this, play Mustapha. It's got more drama than an entire season of, well, any of those, those shows you binge watch.
Yeah, Mustapha. It's not your typical historical play. We're talking a psychological thriller. Ambition, paranoia, love, duty, and choices. Choices with some serious consequences.
So, like, set the scene for us. Where are we exactly? Who are the big players in this Ottoman drama?
All right, so picture this. The heart of the Ottoman Empire, palace's tension, and right at the center, Sultan Suleiman. Powerful ruler, but getting on in years, and maybe just a little paranoid.
Paranoid? What's he got to be paranoid about?
He's got an empire to run, a legacy to protect, and that's where Roxolana comes in, his wife. Not exactly the shy and retiring type, ambitious, fiercely protective of her son Zanger, and she'll do whatever it takes to see him on that throne.
So she's playing the Game of Thrones Ottoman style.
Oh, absolutely. Master manipulator. She knows how to plant those seeds of doubt, especially when it comes to Suleiman's eldest son, Mustapha.
Wait, another son. I thought Mustapha was the heir.
He should be. Brave warrior, beloved by the army, seems like a natural fit to rule. But to Roxolana, he's a threat to Zanger's future, an obstacle that needs to be removed.
This is already getting good. Power-hungry empress. Paranoid sultan. Two brothers caught in the middle. Is there anyone else we need to keep an eye on?
Oh yeah. We got to talk about the Hungarian queen, Isabella. Lost her husband, lost her throne, desperate to get back her power and protect her son. And you might think she's just a tragic figure, but she ends up being a key part of Roxolana's plan.
Okay, so how does the Hungarian queen fit into all of this?
Roxolana is a master at using people's weaknesses. She sees the queen's vulnerability, and she uses it. She starts hinting to Suleiman that Mustapha might be sympathetic to the queen's cause, maybe even plotting with her.
Whoa, that's pretty cold. Turning this woman's misfortune into a weapon against her stepson.
Exactly. Roxolana knows how to make Suleiman see what she wants him to see.
She's already playing mind games with the Sultan. But hold on, you mentioned something about romantic tension earlier. We got power struggles, we got political maneuvering. Tell me there's a love story mixed in with all this drama.
Oh yeah, there's a love story. Actually, two love stories. The first one is complicated. Ready for this? Mustapha, Zanger, and the Hungarian queen, all caught in a love triangle.
Whoa, things just got a whole lot more complicated. But wait, Mustapha and Zanger, aren't they rivals for the throne?
Rivals, but also friends. They were close growing up. But Roxolana's manipulations and their love for the same woman, it puts their bond to the test.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So what about the queen? Who is she drawn to?
It's a tough choice for her. You got Mustapha, strong and noble. And then there's Zanger with his youthful charm, duty versus desire. Plus she's got to think about her kingdom, her son's future. Talk about pressure.
And all the while, Roxolana's in the background, watching this all unfold. I bet she doesn't let this opportunity go to waste.
Nope, not a chance. The queen ends up choosing Mustapha, confesses her love for him, and Roxolana, she pounces.
I knew it. She probably paints it as the ultimate betrayal.
You got it. She tells Suleiman that Mustapha is power-hungry, that he's willing to betray his own family for this woman, the queen. She's the manipulative seductress leading Mustapha astray. Pure deception.
This poor sultan, surrounded by all these people playing games, does he ever figure out what's going on?
Well, that's the tragic part. Suleiman, consumed by jealousy, believes Roxolana's lies. He sees Mustapha's popularity, his relationship with the queen, and he thinks it's all evidence of a plot against him.
So his paranoia is spiraling,
Yeah.
and things are about to get really bad, aren't they?
Yeah, this is where things take a dark turn. Suleiman, convinced that Mustapha is betraying him, orders his execution. Imagine that, a valiant warrior, condemned to death by his own father, based on lies.
Oh man, the betrayal, the injustice. It's like something out of Shakespeare. So how does Mustapha react?
With dignity, he accepts his death, maintains his innocence, even sends a final message to Zanger, expressing his love and loyalty, never knowing the role his own brother played in his downfall.
That's heartbreaking. And Zanger, knowing that his mother manipulated him into contributing to his friend's death, how does he deal with that?
It destroys him. Consumed by guilt and grief, he takes his own life. And the queen, heartbroken and alone, her hopes of reclaiming her throne vanish. It's a cascade of tragedy, all stemming from Roxolana's ambition.
Wow, from power struggle to multiple deaths, and it all happened so fast. So Roxolana, she got what she wanted. But how does she react to the consequences of her actions?
Well, that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive. We'll explore the aftermath of this tragedy. and uncover the truth behind Roxolana's motivations.
This is heavy stuff, but I'm hooked. Join us next time as we continue to unpack this fascinating play and delve into the themes of power, betrayal, and the human cost of ambition. Man, Act 1 was intense. A dead heir, a suicide, a queen who's lost everything. It's crazy how quickly things escalated.
Yeah, it really shows you how ambition and paranoia can spiral out of control. And we're not even done yet. Roxolana, the mastermind behind all of this, she's still standing. She got what she wanted, Zanger on the throne. But at what cost?
That's what I want to know. Does she even care? Or is she drowning in guilt?
Well, the consequences hit her harder than she expected. Roxolana breaks down, confesses everything to Solomon. The manipulation, the lies. She admits she played him.
So the Sultan finally knows the truth after it's already too late. I can't imagine how he took that.
It's devastating for him. He realizes he was a pawn in his wife's game, that he killed his own son for nothing. His world falls apart. He's lost both his sons. His legacy is tarnished, and he's left with this crushing guilt.
That's a brutal fall from grace. From powerful sultan to a broken man, all because of his wife's ambition. So does he punish her?
That's the thing about Mustapha. There are no easy answers, no simple solutions. Solomon is consumed by grief. Yeah, he's furious with Roxolana, but he also knows he played a part in this. He let himself be manipulated. He let his fears cloud his judgment.
So it's a story about power corrupting, but also about the power of deception. Both Solomon and Roxolana are responsible, each in their own way. It makes you think about how easily we can be manipulated.
Absolutely. It raises questions about accountability. Can Solomon, a powerful ruler, really claim to be a victim? He had the power to investigate, to question the accusations. And Roxolana, even with her grief, can she ever atone for what she did? The play leaves us wrestling with those moral complexities.
It shows that power dynamics are never simple. There's often shared responsibility in these situations. But let's talk about the characters themselves for a minute. We've focused a lot on Solomon and Roxolana, but what about Mustapha? What kind of man was he?
Mustapha is the noble warrior, brave, honorable, loved by the people in the army. He's also fiercely loyal to his friends, to his father, even when that loyalty is misplaced.
It sounds like he was too good for this world, too naive to survive all the scheming and betrayal.
That's a good point. He's definitely blind to the danger around him. He trusts his father completely, believes in the good in people, which makes him vulnerable to Roxolana.
It's like watching a lamb walk into a lion's den. You know something bad is going to happen, but you can't stop it. It makes his death even more tragic. What about Zanger? He always seemed like the more sensitive brother. Did he know what his mother was planning?
That's a tough question. Even scholars debate it today. The play doesn't say for sure if Zanger knew everything. He loves his brother, but he's also under his mother's influence, torn between his loyalty to her and his own conscience. In the end, his guilt over Mustapha's death consumes him, leads him to take his own life.
It just shows how ambition can poison even the strongest relationships. Zanger wanted his mother's approval so badly he got caught in her web and lost his way.
Exactly. He became an accomplice and paid the ultimate price. His tragedy is just as powerful as Mustapha's.
What about Isabella, the Hungarian queen? What happens to her?
She plays a crucial role, even though she's not as active. She's the moral compass of the play. She sees through Roxolana's lies, recognizes Mustapha's goodness, and mourns his death deeply. Her grief shows us how unjust his death was.
It's interesting that she's the one who sees the truth, even though she's an outsider.
She represents purity, honor, and integrity. Qualities that are missing in Solomon and Roxolana's world. She reminds us that there's a price for being ruthless.
So we've covered the main characters, their motivations, their tragic fates, but we haven't talked much about the historical context. You mentioned fratricide. How common was that in the Ottoman Empire?
It's a dark part of their history. Not exactly common, but fratricide was a way to prevent civil war, to secure the succession. The idea was, eliminate your rivals, consolidate power, ensure stability.
So it was seen as a necessary evil.
That was the justification.
Right.
But of course, it created a climate of fear and suspicion. Brothers turned against each other, mothers scheming to protect their sons. The court became a breeding ground for intrigue.
A real-life Game of Thrones.
Exactly. The play reflects the reality of power in that era. It shows how ambition and paranoia could destroy even the closest family bonds.
This deep dive has been quite a journey. We've explored ambition, deception, the dark side of Ottoman history. What else can we expect as we continue exploring Mustapha?
In part 3, we'll take a look at the play's artistry, the language, the imagery, and how it still resonates with audiences today. We'll also discuss some of the ethical questions it raises and talk about its legacy.
So we've talked about Mustapha, Zanger, and how Roxolana's web of lies led to their deaths. It's a story that really gets to you, but it also makes you think. What makes Mustapha so powerful? Why is it still relevant after all these centuries? Is it just the story itself, or is there something more?
It's definitely more than just the plot. It's the way the story is told, the language, the imagery, the structure. It all works together to create something truly special. Like, think of it this way. You can have a great idea for a story, but if you don't tell it well, it loses its impact. Mustapha is a masterpiece of storytelling.
So what are some of the things that make this play so captivating? Break it down for me.
Well, one technique that really stands out is dramatic irony. The audience knows things the characters don't. We know Roxolana is scheming, but the characters on stage are totally clueless. It creates this incredible suspense.
Oh, I get it. It's like in those horror movies where you know the killer's hiding, but the characters are walking right into the trap.
Exactly. You're rooting for the characters, but you also know they're in danger, and that tension keeps you hooked.
Okay, dramatic irony, got it. What else?
The language itself is so powerful. It's this heightened poetic style that adds to the tragedy and grandeur. It's not everyday speech. It's more like almost operatic.
Yeah, now that you mention it, the language was really striking, almost Shakespearean.
Exactly. And the playwright also uses a lot of imagery and symbolism to reinforce the themes. For instance, light and darkness are recurring motifs. Mustapha is associated with light, representing his nobility and purity, while Roxolana and her plots are shrouded in darkness.
So it's not just what they say, but how they say it. And even the imagery used to describe them, it all adds to the depth of the story.
Precisely. Every detail is carefully crafted, which is why Mustapha still resonates with audiences today. It's a story about power, betrayal, and the human cost of ambition, themes that are just as relevant now as they were centuries ago.
Yeah, we see these themes play out all the time. In politics, in business, even in our personal lives.
It's a reminder that human nature doesn't really change. We still crave power. We're still tempted to lie and manipulate. And we're still vulnerable to jealousy and paranoia. Mustapha is a warning. It tells us to be careful about the choices we make and to watch out for those who might take advantage of us.
It makes you wonder if that was the playwright's goal all along, to expose the darker side of human nature.
That's a question for the scholars to debate. But one thing's for sure. Mustapha is a play that stays with you. It challenges you to think about yourself and about the world we live in.
It definitely makes you think and feel. It's entertaining, but it also leaves you with this unsettling feeling. The idea that good people can be manipulated, that power can corrupt anyone.
That's the power of great art. It's not just about entertainment. It's about provoking thought, challenging your beliefs. Mustapha does all of that.
I think we've covered a lot of ground here. The plot, the characters, the history, the language, the imagery, the play's impact. Anything else we should mention before we wrap things up?
Just one last thought. Mustapha is a tragedy, but it's also a story about resilience. The characters go through terrible things, but they also find ways to cope, to find meaning in their pain. Like the Hungarian queen. She never gives up hope of reclaiming her throne. She represents perseverance.
That's a good point. Even in the darkest times, there's always a glimmer of hope.
Exactly. And that's what makes Mustapha so powerful. It's a story about the darkness of humanity, but it also shows our capacity for love, loyalty, and resilience.
Well said. I think we can end things there. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Mustapha.
It was my pleasure.
And for our listeners, if you're looking for a story that will stay with you, check out Mustapha. You won't regret it.